Two of my panelists here in Lagos, from downtown Lagos, Bismarck Rewane, the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company, and live from the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Bakare, who is the macroeconomic strategist for Afrinvest, and from our Abuja studios, Uwaleke had been there. So, but let's get this conversation going. Mr. Rewane, let's come back to you to continue on the side of some of the sectors. Real estate sector contracted 2.68% in third quarter from a negative 3.88%. Public administration, this may interest you, contracted about 1% in third quarter, down from a more negative, a more deeper 5.21% in the second quarter. Art and entertainment, education, industries, motion picture, sound recording, all in negative territory.
Well, let me tell you something about the entertainment and out broadcasting business. This business is very weather sensitive. What you have is that during the rainy season, which is July to September, which is the third quarter, is when those sectors actually decline in investment and activity. Those sectors have a boom during December, Christmas, like now you're seeing it. They also have a boom during the Easter period. So you find a lot of celebration, a lot of art, a lot of concerts and outside performances during those periods. But in the quarter that starts in July 1 to September, you find that there's a decline in those areas. You also see that decline also in real estate because the buildings, housing starts are usually in October, November, the dry season, all the way to January, February. By the time paint in manufacturing and all of that, those increase. But in that quarter, the quarter of July, which is the rainy season, you find that certain sectors, including soft drinks, including the brewing and all those sectors contract in that period or have a slowdown. So you have to adjust most of these things to seasonality. That is for entertainment. But the real estate sector also the same thing. And again, interest rate sensitive, credit sensitive. So that's affecting real estate as well.
Mr. Rewane, let's stick with you for about 1 minute, 1 or 2 more minutes. These sectors are sectors where you have employment, folks who are self-employed, art, music production, somebody who's using 1 room out of his 3-bedroom flat or 2-bedroom flat in Yaba or in whatever, in Agege, doing some music production, try to eke out a living. So if these guys are not doing business, as it were, is this has anything to do with consumer demand? What do you say?
No, there is some consumer demand. Like I told you, the people, the guys who have the concerts, the guys who prepare all of these acts, and you have all over the place, the big parties, the weddings and all of that. During the rainy season, you don't have much of those. Those things pick up again from September all the way to December. So you'll find that that sector in the fourth quarter you're going to see an increase and improved performance in the fourth quarter. But also because don't forget, they are also small and medium-scale enterprises, they're not getting enough business. At this time of the year, they are affected by credit, they are affected by weather, they are also affected by the fact that state governments were being owed, and if those state governments did not pay, you talked about public administration, if they did not pay off their debts in time, the third quarter activity level across the country was affected. So there are a combination of factors. First of all, the constraints were lower, but also the seasonality came in. Thirdly, credit availability and employment sensitivity.
I'm interested in this before we move on with you, Mr. Rewane. Public administration, technically speaking to the public services sector, was a contraction of about 1% in Q3 from a negative 5.21%. Do you think something is working here since these contractions seem to be contracting, reducing, as it were?
Attempt to bail out the states by paying all their salaries. When you talk about public administration, it's not just federal government, state governments across the country, 36 states and local governments. When they get paid and they pay their workers, you'll find increased activity, and some of them are beginning to employ people. They laid off some of the temp. So we are beginning to see that improvement. Something is going on right. Somebody's doing the right thing here.
Okay, Mr. Rewane, in just a few seconds. We apologize. We lost Uwaleke from our Abuja studios to this conversation. Apologies there to our viewers. And, of course, to Professor Uwaleke of the National State University, Professor of Capital Markets. Let's go down to the stock exchange and get Bakare of Afrinvest to continue this conversation with us. I'm sure you're still there into this GDP reading. So beyond these GDP numbers, what do you think we should be doing? What should we be focusing on and fixing critical socioeconomic sectors using this GDP as a mirror?
What we should be doing is what we should have been doing 2 years ago. In fact, decades ago. It remains the fact that government needs to actually look at ways to, boost several sectors of the economy. And a typical way we think that can be done is through reforms. So I'm going to identify some sectors where you see still, there's a lot of room for growth. Agric is one. Agric, has been performing even despite the recession we have, the economic challenges we had between 2015 and 2016. We saw that agric was stable and growth was steady. But lately we see that the impact of conflict, the impact of disasters such as flooding, have come to affect agric outputs. So we saw growth decline to the lowest on quarterly basis on record. So that is suggesting that we need to look at other ways to actually improve agricultural GDP. Now, government has been doing a lot of spending on agric. We've had input subsidies through the fertilizer scheme. We've had a lot of credit through the Anchor Borrowers Program and a lot of other programs created to actually improve agriculture. But what we really need in agriculture is in terms of productivity. So when I talk about productivity, we're talking about yields. So we have crops such as tomato, rice that have been prioritized, but we have one of the lowest yields on these crops in the world. So what the federal government should really focus on is about what do we need to do, irrigation in terms of mechanization, in terms of developing, say, seedlings, that are resistant to the kind of issues we have with the weather in Nigeria. So those are some of the things government can do to actually improve productivity in agriculture. Without productivity, without, restoring calm in Middle Belt, for instance, you are not going to see agric return, to continue to play a very, very good role in terms of, growth. Also, we know that agric disproportionately employs a very large proportion of Nigeria's labor force. So in terms of growing, the incomes, the output of rural farmers, productivity is also crucial to that, and that is also very linked to reducing poverty. Now, if we go on to manufacturing, you see that it's basically doing business in Nigeria is tough. So in terms of power, there are all sorts of challenges related to power. In terms of having your importation of inputs, we all know what is happening at Apapa ports. So that is also challenging. Import processes are tedious. Export processes are tedious. And you have a lot of import bans on critical inputs in agric as well. So in manufacturing. So in terms of assisting the sector also to really be efficient and be competitive, we really need to make the process of doing business easier in Nigeria. Then you go to services. Telecoms have been doing very, very well now. And if you look at broadband penetration in Nigeria, it's still very, very weak. And when you look at in terms of the taxes being charged on telcos and infrastructure companies, if we ease these taxes and remove, ease the process of getting right of way, then we can see a much better performance in services as well. It's basically reforms. Reforms is the key to unlocking growth in the Nigerian economy.
Okay, that's well said. Bismarck Rewane, let's get back to you, Mr. Rewane. So what do you think we should be doing? The government is doing a number of social investment programs. That looks like one policy on one hand. What else should we be doing on the other hand? You don't fly any economic engine, fly any economy with only one engine. You talked about South Africa earlier. So what do we need to do as we go massively into SIPs? Do you think we're leaving the big, heavy ticket macroeconomic issues a bit behind?
No, one thing you have to understand, and you must agree, is that
okay, sorry, we lost Bismarck Rewane there very briefly. We'll try to get that connection back up and running. Of course, we've been trying to get this analysis up into Nigeria's third quarter GDP in today. Of course, in line with some of the expectations, but slightly below what some forecasts were up for 1.9%. We came in at we brought in 1.81%, which was better, 0.31% above second quarter, 1.50%. That was quite some numbers. The non-oil sector came in, beat the second quarter to 2.32% against 2.05%. All GDP